All right, A&P2 students, now we're on to the lipid metabolism. So we're going to talk about we'll talk about lipids. Remember, lipids are, there's a lot of different types of lipids. Most of the lipids that we're taking into our body and digesting are the triglycerides. So these are got a little picture of one here. So this is a triglyceride. The little red three little red balls are representing a glycerol molecule. And then the long chains here, these are carbon atoms. Those are each a fatty acid. So they call it tri because there's 3 fatty acids. And then glyceride has to do with the glycerol there. So that's the triglycerides. We also, take in cholesterol, but that doesn't have to be chemically digested. So we're going to just try to focus on the digestion of triglycerides in our digestive system. So whenever we have lipids that are ingested, and they're in our oral cavity, we do have a small amount of an enzyme. It's from the sublingual salivary gland, and so they call it lingual lipase. So there is an enzyme that's produced by the saliva, not a lot of it, but a little bit produced. But it doesn't work in the mouth. It doesn't start chemically digesting the lipids in the mouth. It just gets mixed in with the lipids, and then it'll in the bolus will travel down with the lipids into the stomach. And then it's in the stomach where that lingual lipase will start chemically digesting the lipids or the triglycerides. And there's another enzyme called gastric lipase that the chief cells, remember the chief cells produce the pepsinogen. The chief cells also produced this enzyme called gastric lipase. And so that gastric lipase is in the stomach as well as that lingual lipase from the salivary glands. And so you'll get chemical digestion of the lipids in the stomach. So, and the bonds will be broken between the fatty acids and the glycerol molecule. So generally you'll end up with one fatty acid attached to the glycerol, which they call it a monoglyceride then, and then 2 free fatty acids. So that's generally how the chemical reaction works with any lipase. So that's going on in the oral cavity. We get the lingual lipase. It makes its way down here with the lipids into the stomach, and then the gastric lipase. They'll start working on the chemical digestion of lipids in the stomach. Now that's only a small portion of the lipid digestion, chemical digestion. Once the chyme that contains the lipids moves into the duodenum and then into the small intestines, the pancreas, one of its enzymes is called pancreatic lipase, and that will join the chyme with the lipid in it in our duodenum. Now it can't work yet, though, that pancreatic lipase. We need to have that bile. Remember, the function of bile is to help mechanically digest the fats or lipids. So we need that bile coming in there as well. And what the bile will do is separate the large fat droplets into smaller ones. And they call that emulsification. So that has to happen first, and then the pancreatic lipase can then start to chemically digest the triglycerides and break them down into monoglycerides and free fatty acids. So that's what's going on with our digestion. Now there's no lipase that's produced by the small intestines like it was for the carbohydrates and the protein. So it's just from the lingual lipase, gastric lipase, and pancreatic lipase. And then of course the bile helps with mechanical digestion, which is called emulsification. So that's our digestion of our lipids. And then when it comes to absorption's a little bit different than it is with carbohydrates and the proteins. We have a picture here to show it. Okay, so our little fat droplets here, little monoglycerides and free fatty acids, Remember that they're not soluble in water, and they don't, and this is a water environment here in the lumen of the small intestine. So they have these little water soluble, those hydrophilic molecules that'll surround them, form these little structures here with the lipid in the center, and then they're able to through that carrier be absorbed across those small intestinal cells, and then get into the lamina propria, where they can enter. Now they're not going to enter the blood capillary. That they don't like water, and the blood capillaries, the openings are a little too small for them. So, but the little openings in the lymphatic capillaries, they call it a lacteal if it's in the small intestines, but it's a lymphatic capillary. They're able to get into the lymphatic capillary, and so that's how they make their way to the bloodstream. Is the lipids will get into the lymphatic capillary. Those lymphatic capillaries will merge into bigger ducts until they drain into the thoracic duct, which then drains into the left subclavian vein. So that's how they get into the bloodstream. So they don't go through the liver and the hepatic portal vein like our carbohydrates and our proteins do. So that's a little bit different between lipids and carbs and proteins. So, and there's some other more details about it, but again, we just want to know that it absorbs into the lymphatic capillaries or lacteals before it heads on to get into the bloodstream. So it kind of bypasses that hepatic portal vein. All right, so that was our absorption going on. And then after those free fatty acids and monoglycerides are in our bloodstream, then there's three fates. The muscle cells might use those fatty acids for energy, so that's a possibility. The fatty acids will enter the aerobic cellular respiration in the mitochondria and be broken down to make energy, or ATP. Another fate is adipocytes, those fat cells. They may take up the free fatty acids and monoglycerides and store them in the adipocytes, and they store them as triglycerides. Or the other thing is we need some lipids to make certain products for our cells. So there may be, there's cholesterol in the membrane, and there's other, lipid components that are in the plasma or cell membranes. There's some hormones that are lipid based. There's other materials. So the cells might take the free fatty acids and monoglycerides up and actually make different types of products for that cell. So those are the fates of our lipid products that get absorbed. And so that ends our digestive system videos. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I hope they were helpful, and I will see you later.